Hey guys, so I've last night I finished putting together my Federal Siren Q2B, sort of a display slash PlayStation kind of, I don't know, a little bit of a demo thing. It's something that I like to fire up once in a while. I take to events, whatever. So rather than just hooking up the cables straight to the power cable and creating arcing and that sort of thing, it's a little bit non-controlled. I hooked it up to a starter solenoid from Ford. It's a 4-terminal starter solenoid. That's what most people use. It's like $8 or whatever. Here's one right here. So this is what it looks like. It's a very universal thing. Doesn't have to be expensive. And yeah, so long story short, I've got it hooked up to that. This is I think this is a proper, like a Federal, some other brand, same sort of thing, except all the terminals are on the back. So it is a starter solenoid, and the purpose of that is so that you can constantly have your Siren hooked up to your solenoid, and then you can just hook your jumper cable up to the other side of it. And then what it basically does in a nutshell is it's switched. It's low voltage switched. So you don't have high. That's why when you just hook this straight up to a power wire, you've got that strong arcing. It's because that's really high current switching. So what this does is it uses like a low voltage trigger basically to connect these the two big prongs. So then your power goes straight through, turns on the Siren. So really nice and easy now. I get to just hook it up to my car battery. So when I hook it up, there's no arcing. It's really great. It just puts power. So I've got 12 volts that goes right to there. And then I chose to just use one of the terminals on the back to ground the Siren to. What I also did was I ran a ground to the base of this, because this solenoid needs to be grounded for the switching, the triggering to work. So I grounded the base of this to the base of the Siren, which also needs to be grounded for it to turn on and work. So when I hook up my battery to the ground on the vehicle, it's all interconnected, so it's all grounded. And then what I did, so now I've got 12 volts to this terminal, and I ran 2 extra wires, so I have 12 volts to, this is my brake switch. I'm gonna make some labels to cover that hole. I drilled it too big, so this came right through. Stupid. So this is my brake, and then this is my Siren, the Q Siren activation of the solenoid, which turns the Siren on. So I have 12 volts to the brake, and then run straight out from the brake from the switch to the brake, and then 12 volts to the trigger, which then goes on these 4 terminals. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There are 2 terminals. No, it's not gonna be friendly. So on the left side, there's a L terminal. That's a momentary 12 volts. So when you run your key into the start, like crank position, this is supposed to activate 12 volts or something like 8 or 12 volts to your coil. So because we're not using a coil in this system, this is not for an automotive application, that terminal is not used. So what you do instead is you run it to your S. I don't know if you can see that. There's an S. That is your start terminal. So basically, 12 volts, just to dumb it down a little more, 12 volts. So I have 12 volts on one side of my switch. This is a normally open, push to close momentary switch. Same with this. So 12 volts to the open side of it. Push it closed. It now closes that. 12 volts continues. 12 volts is now applied to the S terminal, your start terminal. And that in turn will activate the coil inside of the starter solenoid, closes it. So now you have continuity between these 2 large terminals. You are now applying your 12 volts, however many amps you are required through your battery to start this. So in a nutshell, that is what I've done. I've just created a safer means of applying it. So I'm just going to demo it for you really quick. Got my 12 volts, got my ground. Nice. This is, by the way, a Federal, it's a Model 28. I got this for a pretty good deal. It was 160 bucks. And it looks good. This is how it came. However, I've got actually a lot of rotor resistance. There's a lot. It's metal on metal. Does not freewheel very well at all. So I plan to disassemble this. I took apart this little back plate just to see the rear bearing, and it's been replaced. There's like a fairly new looking bearing, but I think it was probably a very cheap bearing that it has a lot of rolling resistance. So I may end up just putting like a ceramic bearing in there just to get help with the freewheeling. But I need to also check on the front bearing. So that's a future project. I'll do the same thing. I'll put it on a pedestal, you know, a nice stained wood kind of thing. This is just my workbench underneath, but sort of something nice. Yeah, I take it to hockey games. We have like a fireman's hockey tournament for my fire department that I'm planning on bringing this to, and in our final game of the tournament, like the Stanley Cup final, I've got that, and I also have it's a Wolo 846 Chief. It's similar to the Grover 1510 air horn, and that is something I'm going to bring with. I'm going to get a portable air tank, so whoever scores, whoever wins the game, you know, just excitement, lots of excitement. So in any case, well, this is the other side of it too. What I ended up doing was the cable that I bought was the one that came with. It was too short, and then I got this one that was longer, and it was a little too long. So you can see it drops out the bottom here, but what I did was I wrapped it around the other side of it, and then there is your brake. So I ran it underneath the brake. So when I push this button, you'll probably see the brake. So I've got 12 volts to that. Brake works. Do it again with a little bit better focus. The cable is out of the way, unobstructed. It's great. Works really good. So yeah, I ran that cable just around the bottom. It's not perfect, but it doesn't really matter that much. No one's really gonna care. So without further ado, here's a demo, quick demo. I'm not gonna ramp it up because there's people outside, so. Just recently you can hear something is rubbing somewhere, so I may investigate into that. It still coasts down pretty nicely, so I'm not super worried. All right. So there's my little demo box, demo plate thing. I considered running this inside of a box, like build it, like, you know, having some kind of little wooden trinket box, have this inside of it with the buttons just on top so you just only see the buttons. But I just wanted to do it this way. It's just a little easier. Some people might want to see that kind of stuff, so it kind of looks neat too. So in any case, yeah, that's what I've got.